As you can see, the screen turns on and we get some data about my car. Scroll with the right scroll wheel up. We get the front-facing camera. So if you put on autopilot, you can see the rainbow road and the autopilot steering wheel there. Hi there and welcome to TechPlower and welcome to my Tesla Model 3. Have you ever wanted to have a screen behind the steering wheel as it is on the Model X and Model S? Well, if so, you're in luck, because now there are various options for dashboard screens that you can have as a third-party addition. And Tlyard was kind enough to provide me with one such screen, and it's here in the box. I'm gonna show you what's inside the box. I'm gonna go through the installation of it, and this one also includes a front-facing camera that I can put on the front bumper, and I will also show you how to install that. So first of all, let's see what we have in the box. So here's the box. We have the Model T12 Pro for this dashboard screen, and we have a beautiful embossed logo here and some details on what this screen can do. On the side here we actually get an image of how the screen looks like, and this screen goes on top of the steering wheel column. So if we slide the box out of its sleeve like this and put that to the side, we just have a white box, and then we open it up, and first of all we have some instructions manual or user manual that will be really handy when we start setting this up. Putting that to the side, and then it's really well packaged with good padding here. So the first bag here is the front-facing camera that goes on the front bumper. We can open that up and take a closer look. It comes in two parts, so that's really nice, because then we can feed this cable separately and then feed the camera cable separately to the front bumper. And you can adjust the angle of the camera when you've mounted it, so you can decide what you want to see when you look through the camera. So what angle do you want to see? So that's really nice. And here we have a sticky pad and two screws to mount the camera with. I guess I will only use the sticky pad this time around. Next we have the power cable for the screen, and this is specifically for the Intel Atom CPU, so it has these plugs. Then we have a tiny screwdriver that will be used to mount the screen on the cover that goes over the steering wheel column. Then we have a small plastic tool to help us remove the dashboard here and some side panels that we need to remove to access the locations where we need to thread the cable and connect the screen. So next up must be the screen itself. So if you drag up this padding and remove the box from the view, very well packaged. So here is the plastic piece that goes on top of the steering wheel column, and we have the mounting point for the screen here. And the screen itself, it's packaged in some blue plastic, so let's remove that, and here it is. It's really tiny, and it has these three cables. These are for the power and the data for the screen, and the yellow one is for the front-facing camera. So this is everything that was in the box. So let's start the installation. So the first thing we have to do is to mount the screen to the steering wheel column cover. So first of all we need to thread the cables through these holes here. These two go here and the single cable goes on the other side, and this part is facing us, so the screen should be in this way. So we thread it through, and then we have to turn it around, and we have these two holes where we have to place the screws that we got to fasten the screen. And we'll use the tiny screwdriver that we got in the box. So now the screen has been securely placed on the steering wheel column cover. So the next step is to remove some panels and place this one. So let's do that. So in order to install the screen, we have to remove this dashboard panel, but in order to do that we have to remove this side panel as well. So we'll just use the spudger that we got in the box and it's just fastened with some clips. So we just have to pry it open like this, and at the bottom here, and then it's free. So you have to do it the same on the other side. Just the same thing. Just pry it open. That's a little bit stuck. Damaging the panel a little bit here. There it goes off. Small damage there to the panel, so be careful. But this is off. So the next thing is to remove this whole panel here. So let's do that. So to remove this panel, we simply use the spudger that we got and just carefully place it under here, and we can just twist it a little bit like this, and it pops up. And just going further in the same way and popping it up like this. And then we have to go to the other side and loosen it up there as well. So let's do that. So we do the same thing here. Just put the tool under and pry it up. Now it should be loose, and we should be able to take the whole panel out. Just lift it up and pull it back a little bit, and it's out. So we'll keep that to put it on again when we have installed the display. So the next thing is that we have to move the steering wheel all the way back and down. So we have place to remove the panel here, so we can place the new screen here instead of this panel that comes with the car. So all the way out, all the way down. So now we have space here to work, and we have this plastic panel and also this one that we have to remove to get this piece out. So to remove this one, we have two plastic clips here that we need to remove. So let's do that. And the other one, like that. And we can remove this one like this. And then to remove this panel, we simply had to pry this open. This is just fastened with some clips. So we use our pry tool. We can lift it up here to get access like this. And there's one clip up here as well, if you can get under it. There. So all the clips on this side. So do the same on the other side. Can be a little bit stiff. And there it went. So now you see that we have this cover here that goes over here. So we have to take this off and put it on the new steering wheel column cover where the display is. So we simply have to release these clips. There are clips on the side here. Just do like this. Same on the other side. Lift it up. And then there are clips in the middle here. Just squeeze it together to get it out. On this side as well. This one is a little bit tricky. And there it dropped. So this one is out. So let's put this one on the steering wheel column cover that came with the screen. So this should be similar. So we have to place these clips into these holes. Let's turn it around, mount the clips. They go in like this. And on this side. And then these side clips also need to be put in place. So just lift it up a little bit like this, and on the other side as well, like that. Now that we have attached this to the steering wheel column cover that came along with the screen, we can start connecting the wires and routing them to the correct places. So we'll start with the power and data cables, and you see that these are color matched, and we have 4 pins inside each cable, and we have 4 holes here on each of the cable coming from the display. So we have to match those. So we have a groove inside of this cable, and on the outside of the cable here we also have a groove. So we have to match these up, and in that way these should fit together. So matching this groove with this groove and connecting it like this. And the same with the red one. We have the groove up here and the groove up here on the cable. So we connect that. So now we have the data and power cable connected. The yellow one is for the front-facing camera. So let's connect that as well. So for the camera wire, we unfortunately don't have the same color, but this was the cable that came with the camera. And I know that the yellow one is for the camera connection. So you can see that there is a small sleeve around the cable in small parts of it. And this means that this is more protected. So this one will go in the front and this one will go inside, that has a little bit thinner cable and doesn't have this sleeve on. So we'll take this part. It's the same here. We have this 4-pin connector. We have a groove on the outside of this cable, and I don't know if you see it, but there's a groove inside this cable as well. And we simply have to match those as before and then connect those. So now that we've connected all the cables, we can place the screen onto the steering wheel column and see how it fits. So when we place the cover back on the steering wheel column, we have to make sure to route the cables outside on the back to make sure that those are not in the way when the steering wheel goes back and forth. So we put that down here, making sure that the cables are okay here on the side. And we have these clips here on the side, and those should go in here and on the other side as well. And the clips up here go in here as well. So be careful. The clips up here are quite fragile. And I actually broke one of them while trying to put this on the first time. So please be careful. So when you have aligned the clips, you simply press down on the clips and those should pop in. Here you go. And on the other side as well. Like that. And even though one of the clips broke here, it's okay. It's a little bit gap here, but it's still steady. So now we just have to put these clips back. Just press them into their hole like this and pressing the tips in. So now the steering wheel column cover is back on with the screen on top. So now we have to route the cables all the way from here and to the other end, because there's the connection point. But we have to make sure that we are not covering the clips, because the dashboard has to come on again. But we also have to make sure that the cable here is not stretched, so the steering wheel can go back and forth and up and down after we've installed the screen. So the best way is to use some tape to put the cable here and make it stay in place. So as you can see, we've routed the cable all the way here and taped it in a few places so it stays in place. But now it's time to see where to connect the cables and also route the camera cable out to the front. So in order to access the panel where we have to connect the cables, we have to remove some more trim pieces. We have to remove this little piece, and this one we can simply remove with our fingers. Just fasten with a few clips like this. And then we need to remove a part of the weather seal that is here, and that's simply pulled apart like this. Not all the way, and we can just place it by like here. And down here we have a small clip that needs to be removed. So now we simply have to use the spudger To remove this clip, we simply go between here and it's loose. And now this one should be loose. And this part of the trim piece should be loose as well. For the rest, these are just fastened with some clips. So it's basically pulling it up and it gets loose. And then this one pulls a little bit back. And then we have access to the port here. But unfortunately, the power cable that came with the screen is not the correct one. You see the OBD port here? I should have got an OBD port and a power port to daisy chain and then put into the OBD port. But unfortunately, this is for the old Intel connector. So I'll just have to wait to get the correct cable shipped to me to finalize the install. But we can still route the cable for the front-facing camera to the front and mount the camera. So let's do that. So in order to route the camera cable, we have to remove some pieces from the trunk, and we'll start with this piece. And this piece is simply fastened with some clips. So it's simply pulling it up here. As you see, it loosens up very easily like this. And we take that out. Then there are a few screws that we need to loosen up. There are 2 at the bottom here, 2 here, and 1 up here, and 2 are behind this cover. So we have to start removing this cover. So that's simply fastened with clips as well. So we just go under here and it easily goes out. But you see that we have a light here and a button. So we have to remove that in order to continue. And that's simply pulling on the cable, or not pulling on the cable, pulling on the plastic here until it loosens up, and that's out. And here you see the 2 bolts we need to loosen up. So these are just 10mm bolts. So we just have to take them out, and we can keep them inside the front because the whole front cover comes out. And the last one here. And then there's actually one more thing that we need to loosen up. The vent cover here is attached to the front cover. So these just have these plastic little clips that we can simply lift up. Like this. And that's out. And now the front should be loose, just fastened with some clips underneath. So let's just start up here and loosen it up on the other side as well. And now we should be able to lift it up like this. And this is how it looks in the front of the car without the front cover. So now it's time to mount and route the camera up in here. So now we have the camera here, and it should be placed in the center up here. We have to clean the area so the camera sticks properly. But before we place the camera, we have to get the cable up into the front, and we should be able to get it up here. So I had some trouble routing the cable up here, but it succeeded in the end. So now I have the end coming up here. I hope you see it, and if I drag it a little bit, you see the end here. And now we have to fasten the camera and then route the cable inside the car. So we're not going to use the screws, we're just going to use the tape. So we remove the tape and we try to place it in the middle, and we have the middle here. Let's tug on the cable a little bit. So we want it about here. So we place the tape, hold it a little bit, so when we place the camera we can route the cable. Just have to get a better double-sided tape. After buying some proper double-sided tape, I was able to apply that to the front-facing camera mount and then place the camera under the bumper. And that worked really well. So now that I have the cable routed here from the front bumper, I connected the cable from inside the car to the camera and routed it along existing cables in the front. And I fastened the cable with some zip ties. I was able to find a way for the cable inside the car via this rubber gasket. And as you can see here, the cable came in just below the glove box. Then I was able to route the cable just right of the glove box. We will place the front cover back on. So simply put it down here and it should go in its right place, and we can put the clips down on all the sides like this, quite easy. And we can put the vent cover on again. It's simply with these clips. These should align. So this one and here as well, like this. So that's in place. And now we simply have to put all the 7 bolts back in and then put this cover on. So let's do that. And the last one up here. Then I have to connect the light again. That's this cable, and it's simply with the slot up here. Just slide it in, and we can press the button to see if it works. Yes, it works. And then feed the cable here with the bottom first down, like this. So that's there. So now we just have to put the cover on here. Just line it up with the clips and then put it down like this, and we can close the frunk. So unfortunately we cannot finalize the setup now, but when I get the correct cable to connect to the OBD port, I will show you how to finalize things here and put things back as it should be. Tlyard sent me a new cable, so now we have the OBD connector that goes in here and a separate power cable that goes into this port, but first we have to disconnect this one to be able to connect the one that comes from the screen. So let's do that. So before disconnecting any cables, we should power off the car. So we go into the car icon, safety, scroll all the way down here and click the power off button and then the power off button here. So now we can safely disconnect the cables. So this is just a free OBD port, so there's nothing here to disconnect. So we can simply connect our OBD connector from the screen directly here. Just align the grooves like this, and it's a little bit tight, and just click it in like this. We still have a free OBD port if you want to connect something else, because this cable comes with an OBD port as well. Now we just have to disconnect the power cable and connect the power cable from the display there instead. Like this. Then the power cable from the display goes into the same port, like this. So now we connected the power of the display, but we have to connect the power of the car back to the display cable. So we daisy chain the power just like this. So now everything is connected again. So before putting everything in place, let's see if the screen works and if the front-facing camera works as well. So let's do that. As you can see, the screen turns on and we get some data about my car. So both the power and data cable seems to be correctly connected for the screen. But can we see the front-facing camera? We should be able to see it by scrolling with the right scroll wheel up. But as you can see, we only get some CarPlay screen. So something is not set up correctly, but I know what. So if you swipe to the left here, you get this setting icon. So here we have this AHD, and I don't know what AHD stands for, but I know it is for the front-facing camera. So if I put that to on and go back here, and we do the same as before, scroll with the right scroll wheel up, we get the front-facing camera. And that is also working. So now, since everything seems to be working, we can start putting things back together. So now we just have to put back all the panels as they were, and just make sure that the cables are securely stowed behind here and not obstructing any connections. So we first take this piece and put that back together, and we have to make sure that the cables are not in the way. So we'll try to manage those a little bit. So we have all the cables coming from here, and we'll just have to try to put them behind things so they're just tucked away properly, like this. And then we just have to put this back, and we have to make sure that this hole is free. So the clip that is fastening this one is free. And here's a cable as well. So just take your time putting it on. And the clips over here have to go in as well. This goes in like this. Then we have this little clip that goes in here, and that's fastened. And then we have to put back the weather seal. Let's start over here, make sure everything is okay up here, and just feed it back here like it was, like this. That's in place. Then we just need to put this small panel back on here, and the same goes here. Just make sure that the cables are properly routed and are not blocking any holes where these connections are going in. So just push it a little bit back, and this one goes down first and inside here. So this one is in place. Next up is this big panel here, and now you really have to be careful that the cable is not blocking any of the holes for the small pins on this panel. So it's simply putting it over the screen and a little bit in, like this. And then it needs to go inside the holes. And just pressing it down so it goes into the clips. So while we're on this side, we can put this small panel back, and the same goes here. Make sure that the cables are not blocking any of the clips that this panel needs to connect to. So it seems to be fine here. The cable is not in the way. So we'll just clip it in here. Like that. So this panel is in place. So now we have to go to the other side and make sure that this dashboard is fastened properly, and then also put this small panel on that side. So as you see, there's a little gap here, so we just have to make sure that it clips in place, and that was quite easy. Just press it down onto the clips, and that should be fastened. So then it's just this last panel here on the side, and we have no cables to worry about here, so we just have to put it into the clips and put it in place like this. So now we'll put back all the panels. So now it's time to deep dive into the display. So one thing before we go through the functionality of the screen, let's remove the plastic off the display so we see the actual display instead of the plastic. And there it is in all its glory. So first of all, let's just look at what we have on the screen. We have our speed here. We of course can't see it now because I'm not moving. It's in kilometers per hour, which is the correct unit for Iceland. On the side here, we have in what drive mode we are in. Currently I'm in park, so we see reverse, neutral and drive. On the bottom here, we see the battery status in percentage, 73%. And in the middle here, we see the kilometers that is estimated to be left on the battery, 391 kilometers. And the kilometers on this side are the kilometers that I've driven on the car since I got the car. Then we have the temperature and the time. And then we have a view of the car here. It seems to be the Highland Model 3, even though I don't have that version, and I have a blue car and not white. But I'm sure that's something we can set up in the settings. And up here we currently have the seatbelt indicator, indicating that my seatbelt is not buckled in. But we will get more indications here while driving, so we'll have to see how that works. And if I put on the turn signal, you see that that appears on the screen, both right and left, of course. We have a few secret settings on the display. So on the left here, if you scroll up or down, you can control the volume of the display. Yes, the display has a speaker on itself. On the right side, we have a similar control, but that's for the brightness of the screen. But it seems like I have to set it to manual for that to work. But how can you change the settings of the screen? Well, you can swipe from the right here to the left, and the first button here is this dashboard that we have here. The next option is for your phone settings. We can connect the phone to CarPlay, and now we see a small view of our dashboard. That's really neat. And when we've connected CarPlay, we will see the CarPlay on this side. And to switch back to the full dashboard, we can simply swipe to the left here and click the first button. And at the bottom here is just the power off button to power off the screen. And the third icon here is the settings. So here we have a lot of settings. And in the general section, we have the language setting, where we can choose English and some Asian languages. I'll keep it at English. We can change the time format to 12 hours or 24 hours. I'll change it to 24 hours. That's more my kind of display of the time. And as I mentioned before, this is for the front-facing camera. We put that to on. We can also turn it off. But we also have some settings for the camera. So if you press here, you see that the camera turns on, and we can select the resolution of the camera, 720p or 1080p. We can change the frame rate of the camera, 25 frames per second or 30 frames per second. Let's see if that works. Yep, that works as well. And here we have some great settings as well. Here we can set the rotation of the camera. So let's say if the camera was placed the other way around, then we can rotate the camera 90 degrees, 180 degrees, or 270 degrees. But since my camera is placed under the bumper, this is fine. And we can also change how the camera is flipped, either no flip, we can have horizontal flip, we can have vertical flip, and as I said, no flip. We can also change the brightness of the display, the contrast and saturation. So that's really great to be able to have these different settings just for the front-facing camera. So when you're satisfied with the settings, you simply click Save and Quit. So to go back to the settings, we simply swipe here to the right and click the settings icon. Next one is steering wheel control. But I'm not sure exactly what this one does, because now it's currently turned off, but I can still scroll up with the right scroll wheel and I will get the camera view. And if I scroll down again, I will get the screen I was in before. And if I put this to on and do the same thing, it's the same. So I'm not sure what this steering wheel control does, but if I figure it out, I will update you. Next one is tire pressure unit. We can decide whether we want it to be displayed in PSI or bar. I want it in PSI, so I'll keep it to that. The next one is the time zone. And I can simply use the plus and minus here to change the time zone. And since I'm not in GMT plus 8, so I will just change it to GMT plus 0, because that's my time zone. So that was all in this screen, but we have the display section here. And here we can change the car color. So we have white, red, black, blue and gray. And since my car is blue, let's change that. And if we go back here to the dashboard, yes indeed, the car is now blue. That's really nice. So if we go back to the settings, and you can see we always pop up in the general section. So we go back to the display. Here we can change the car model. The car model is correct, but we can't change to Model Y. But that's not the car I'm driving, it's the Model 3. And here we have the appearance menu where we can have it to auto or day, and that's actually this view, or at night. Then we get a darker view. So if we switch back to the dashboard, it's in the dark mode, which actually looks really nice. If we go back to the settings and display, I really like to have it on auto. Then it will hopefully sync with the big display on my right side here. Here we can change how the temperature is displayed, either in Celsius or Fahrenheit, but here in Iceland we use the Celsius. Here's a funny setting, Rainbow Road, either on or off. This setting will be activated when we turn on Autopilot. So if we have Rainbow Road on, and when we use Autopilot, that road will be a rainbow. That's funny. And then we have the brightness toggle here, and it can either be on auto or manual. And as you see here, when I put it to manual, it went really bright. And if we go back to the dashboard, we can now actually use the secret menu here to change the brightness of the dashboard. And it goes really bright. So that's really nice. But I think having it just on auto will probably work fine. We'll see how that goes. The next section is wireless. And here we can select whether we want to use CarPlay in the connection mode or Android Auto. We can select whether we want the audio to come from the dashboard or from the phone that is connected to the dashboard. And we can also select here how the speed limit is displayed, either a universal display or the American one. And since I'm in Iceland, I will keep the universal one, and we can see how that works. And here we can actually connect with our phone to see how CarPlay works. So the last section here is software. So if the display is connected to Wi-Fi or a hotspot on a phone, we can actually check for updates right from the screen over the air. That's really neat. And as you can see here now, the clock has also changed to 24-hour display. So let's take a quick drive around the neighborhood and see how the display works while driving. As you can see there, the display of course follows the steering wheel column when it goes in, and we can just start driving. And when we put the car into drive, the front-facing camera is displayed as default, but at a certain speed it will turn off, and the camera is still there. And as you saw there, sorry about the shakiness of the camera, the front-facing camera disappeared when we reached 20 kilometers per hour. And we see here that we get the speed limit displayed as well. And currently it's 30 kilometers per hour on this street. And now we see that it changed to reverse, and it follows that. And I saw here when we stop the car, we even get the tire pressure of the wheels, as we could see in the settings that we can change whether we want it to be displayed in PSI or bars. And now we put it into drive again, and you see that the camera is displayed again. And maybe we need to change the settings of the camera a little bit, because as you can see here, there are some bars over here, and it almost seems like it's black and white. But let's see if we can change that and get a better camera view. And I can of course scroll down to get the full dashboard if I don't want to see the camera, even though I haven't reached 20 kilometers per hour. And the turn signal. And when I put the car into park, you see this beautiful animation that is really similar to the animation on the Tesla screen. So let's see if we can fix the camera a little bit. Go into the settings. and into the camera settings. So maybe it was the frame rate that I changed. Yep, it seems like the frame rate actually changed the camera to black and white and showed us some strange bars here. So now we actually have the camera in color. And we can see here that we can probably see the bumper a little bit. Let me go outside and try to adjust the camera a little bit more downwards. So I pointed the camera a little bit more downward, and I think it looks better now. So let's save and quit. And if we scroll up, we get the settings again, and we can go back to the dashboard. If we scroll up again, we can see the camera, and now it's much better. It's in color, and we don't have the black bars here. So I think this will really help when driving into a parking spot, for example. Let's try that out. So even when I put the car into reverse, we still see the front-facing camera. And now when we're going into this parking spot, we can clearly see the curb. The car is not complaining, but I can see the curb and I can stop before we go into it. So that's really nice. So let's see if I can show you the autopilot on this one. So if you put an autopilot, you can see the rainbow road and the autopilot steering wheel there. And of course, if you turn off the rainbow road in the settings, we won't see that. So that's really neat. This works really well. So as you can see, the rainbow road again and the autopilot steering wheel. Awesome. So let's try to connect CarPlay via my phone to the display. So we swipe left here and go to the phone menu here. And here we see the CarPlay menu. So here we are supposed to go into the CarPlay menu on our phone and find this identifier to connect to the CarPlay of the display. So as you can see on the screen recording, we go into the settings and general, and then we find the CarPlay option, and it searches for other cars or other devices that support CarPlay. Let's see what happens. And there it pops up, BT-Link B2A2. That is exactly the same as we see on the display. So let's click that. It takes a while. And now we get the Connect to CarPlay menu on the iPhone. And we click Connect. And it might take a while for the display to react to the connection on the phone. Let's see what happens. Yeah, and it works. We now have CarPlay on the display, connected to my phone. And if we try this out a little bit, it's quite snappy. And I really like that even though we have CarPlay, we still have the small dashboard view here. So we have the car and the percentage and everything we need. This looks really nice. It's really sharp and we have all the settings we need here. And all the CarPlay apps that should be here. That's really nice. So CarPlay on the display via my phone. That works. Let's see if we can go in here. Yeah, Maps works. It's connected to my 5G connection on my phone. Let's see if we can search for something. Select this mall and we click go.
Starting route.
And now we hear the navigation
Proceed to Erdervarf,
coming
then take the first left.
from the speakers of the display. And it's actually quite loud. So let's see what happens if we take a drive and see if the CarPlay is still up and running with the navigation. We see that the front-facing camera displays at first when we start driving, but as we noticed before, it goes away at 20 kilometers per hour, but we can also scroll up with the scroll wheel, and indeed, we get CarPlay up on the screen again with the navigation. And now we're just driving on the parking lot here, but we can clearly see that CarPlay and navigation inside CarPlay works fine. We put it into reverse, we still have CarPlay, and I guess when I put the car into drive again, we'll get the front-facing camera. That's fine. I can always scroll up on the scroll wheel to get the CarPlay display again. So that's really neat, and it seems to be working quite smoothly. Putting it into park, and we still have CarPlay. So we're not going to navigate to this mall, so we'll just end the route. And we can go back here, and this is just as normal CarPlay. We have Apple Music, messages, audiobooks, calendars, settings, and all the compatible apps on my phone that support CarPlay. That's really neat. So if I don't want the CarPlay to be visible there, I can just scroll down on the right scroll wheel and I will get the full dashboard view. So that's really neat. So this was the setup of the 8.8-inch T12 Pro display from Tlyard, including the front-facing camera. I know this was quite a long video, but there are many steps that you have to take to install the display, to route the cables, install the front-facing camera in the front, route the cable inside the car, and connect everything and get everything working. And I'm really happy with the display. It's big enough, it's not too small, it's very crisp and clear, and has all the functionality that I need in a dashboard screen like this. So if you want your own dashboard screen, head over to tlyard.com and find the dashboard screen or any other product that you like on tlyard.com. But remember to use my discount code TechPlower at checkout, and then you will get some discount on the products that you're buying from tlyard.com. I really hope you like this video. And if you indeed liked it, please check out my other content on my channel, and please consider subscribing, because it really helps my channel grow. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share. See you in the next video.